Welcome back to the Change Agent Leadership Podcast. In our last episode, we talked about how to avoid burnout, how to notice the early signs, build check in rhythms, and lead with empathy for ourselves and with others. But what happens when burnout has already taken root? Today, we're going to dive into how to recover from burnout, and more importantly, how to come back stronger, wiser, and more aligned with who you are and with what you value. So let's jump in. One of the key points through this is going to be burnout recovery starts and has to have permission. So let's start with the truth that every leader needs to hear, and that is burnout recovery is not a weakness. It's not a sign that you failed. It's actually a sign that you've probably been carrying too much for too long without support or the space that you've needed. So again, recovery begins with acknowledging your reality without shame. So, a couple action steps as we get going here is ask yourself these three questions. One, am I running on empty? Two, have I lost the joy or meaning in my work? And three, do I feel emotionally flat, cynical, or overwhelmed? If the answer is yes to all of these, or most of them, then you're not alone. You're human and you're ready for a reset. I experienced serious burnout back in 2015, as I shared in the last episode, and this is when my body actually shut down before I recognized the signs. And by then, it was too late for a quick fix. My new normal became just pushing through the day slowly without energy or direction. And because of that, it took over a year for me to recover. I didn't have the tools or resources like I'm providing today. So if you're experiencing burnout, I can truly relate and understand to what you're saying. And I really do hope that what I share with you today will guide you or at least get you started on track to a more joyful, a healthy life, and one that gives you wholeness and just a sense of purpose. So let's jump into the four steps we're going to talk about today for how to recover from burnout. And the first one is reflect and recalibrate. And something to remember and keep in mind through all of this is when burnout happens, it's deep. Rest is not an option, it's actually essential. And here's the challenge though, as leaders, high achievers, we usually struggle with rest. It's not something we want to do. It's like, well, where do I take a pill to get over this burnout? We default to active recovery. That's what I did. I defaulted to active recovery and still trying to take the next pill. We still are overcommitted at times, but just at a slower pace. And here's the key point. You can't think your way out of burnout. You have to rest your way through it. Now is the time to invest in yourself. Real rest requires real space. This is not something you can just reflect on. It's not an afternoon or weekend thing you can get away from. If you truly want to move from burnout into a restful life, do these action steps. And so I'm going to list out some things to reflect on. And the first key theme here is you need to get away. And I would recommend for at least 3 days. This is not a vacation, but this is a rest time. You want to go to a quiet place like a retreat center, a monastery, or somewhere that you can unplug is ideal. No laptop, no email, no social media. Bring a journal, whether it's paper or electronic. And then you want to reflect on these 5 questions. And this is really what the core of your time would be about. And I realize 3 days may not be possible, but that's ideal. And the 5 things to reflect on is one, what used to bring me joy? Two, what's draining me right now? Three, what's the cost of where I'm at, the burnout, the physical cost, the relational cost, the emotional costs? Four, what would a joyful, meaningful life look like? So, what would that look like in the future? Dream a little bit. And then, number 5, what are 3 actions that you will take when you return to move towards that? The goal here is to identify and accept that you are burning out. This is not sustainable, and understand that this is a long term process and that steps to healing start one step at a time. Again, put it this way, consider if your friend or spouse were in this situation and they came to you, what advice would you give them? I don't think you would tell them to just suck it up and push through, but that's what we tell ourselves. So don't do that. Give yourself the same care that you would a friend or a spouse. If 3 days are not possible, then start with something simpler. Create a no list. What are the responsibilities, roles, or routines you need to step away from temporarily? Build a structured rest time. That could mean just structured time off, reduced responsibilities, tech free times, or even short daily pauses. Whatever it is, this isn't about recharging a battery, to be honest with you. It's about replacing your battery with a better one. So that's step one. Step two is to rediscover meaning. Burnout doesn't just make you tired, it actually makes you disconnected from meaning and purpose in life. Reconnect with what gives you energy and joy. And also consider why did you start this journey in the first place? Whatever position you're in and what you're doing that has caused or led to this burnout, there's something there that gave you joy. And so what was that? Reflect on that. Remember, recovery isn't about doing less necessarily. It's about doing what matters more. So some action steps here. Take 15 to 30 minutes to reflect on these coaching questions, is what I call them. And the reason I call them coaching questions is if you were sitting with me right now, I literally would ask you these questions and give you time to pause and reflect. So, free coaching advice here. Just write these down and reflect on them. Number one, what part of your work used to really excite you? Two, when did you feel the most energized, alive, or aligned? Three, what values that you have drifted out of alignment? And four, what would it look like to feel excited about tomorrow? Take some time, again, 15 to 30 minutes. I mean, honestly, you need 15 to 30 for each one. So maybe it's just high level the first time through. But take time, invest in yourself, and reflect on those questions. This is a time to dream again. You probably haven't done that for a while. So whether you journal, walk and think and do this, or talk it out with a coach or a trusted friend, processing aloud can unlock fresh clarity and direction. That's step two. Step three is realign with boundaries. Once rest and reflection begin to work, it's time to redesign and realign your life with healthier boundaries. Use your insights to craft a burnout recovery plan. When you answered those four questions above, consider what actions need to happen. So, the first question that we talked about, the coaching question, is what parts of my work used to really excite me? So, as you reflect on them, then consider part of your recovery plan. Ask, how can I reintegrate that into my daily work? So, those things that used to give you joy, think about them. How can I reintegrate them back into my work? Does my role need to change? Do I need a new rhythm? Do I need to have a reset on expectations? So, again, it's just asking some deeper questions on the same topics. We don't want to just keep adding more topics here. And then follow up with that. So, that first one, what part of my work used to really excite me? So, now you've processed it, you've reflected and asked some questions about it. And then here's a crucial part, boundaries. What boundaries do I need to put in place to ensure that this happens? Because it's one thing to process and say, "Yeah, I need to change this or I need to make adjustments." Well, what boundaries are you actually going to put in place to make sure it happens? So start by identifying what drains you most consistently and then set limits. Create meeting free block times. So set these times up so you can have blocks to process. Limit after hours availability and then possibly say no more often or at least not now. Again, part of this is part of that tied to what used to really excite you at work. It's all tied to that question. And so you really want to put boundaries in place. You come up with the questions that you want to, the boundaries you want to put in place. I just listed some options there. But boundaries protect our recovery. So we're working hard to build our time back. And so reflect on those questions. I just went over the first one and gave you some samples. You want to process the other three questions in the same way. And so after you've done that, an action step, rebuild your calendar with margin and flexibility. You really need to take control of your calendar. It's something I needed to do. I need to do this on a regular basis, is take control of my calendar and add margin and flexibility. I also need to redefine, you need to redefine as well, your non-negotiables. What do you need for your emotional, physical, and relational health? You really do need to think through how do I take care of ourselves? And what are the boundaries that need to be in there? What are those non-negotiables? And then last, we need to communicate these boundaries clearly to your team, possibly, if it relates to them, to your family. And lastly, we forget this step, to ourselves. How do we do that? We talked about this last week in our other episode. Sticky notes, make it visible, but you need to set your boundaries, put them on your calendar. Again, a key point here is recovery is sustained through structure. You have structure for everything else in life, I'm guessing. If you're in business or you're a leader, you have a schedule, you have other things. So restructure yourself. You're worth it. A strong recovery depends on saying yes to what restores you and no to what depletes you. And then moving into step 4, which is reconnect with people who will fill your tank. Burnout often happens in isolation. We stop asking for help. We hide behind the answer that many of us give. How are you? Fine. Well, we give that and that's our go-to, but healing happens in connection. So recovery is relational is a key point to remember here and some action steps. So encourage you to do these. Identify 2 to 3 people you can be honest with about where you are. People you trust, people that are not going to judge you, but care about you and are going to listen. They're not going to solve it. They're just going to listen and be empathetic. Also consider professional help, a coach, a therapist, or a mentor who can help guide you through your next steps. I'm available, but there are lots of other coaches out there that are available as well. Hire somebody that can walk with you through the process or join or create an encouragement group. Could be a leadership circle, that you have, leaders that you trust that you may get with. They're probably struggling with similar things. Maybe it's an accountability partner or it's a peer check-in. Whatever works for you is what you need to do. You don't have to go alone is the key theme here. So remember, healing takes time, and that's okay. Let me say this clearly. Burnout recovery isn't a weekend rest. I said this several times. It just takes time. So give yourself that mental space. It may take weeks, months, or even longer to rebuild your energy, your motivation, and your mental energy. And that's okay. It takes time for these things to happen. You're not trying to return to who you were. You're trying to become someone wiser, stronger, and more aligned with your values. So some action steps here just for that closing point. Track small wins. Celebrate the progress, even if it's just getting through the day with more peace. That's a win. Show yourself grace when habits resurface. You're not going to be perfect at this. Nobody's perfect. Give yourself some grace here. And then reflect weekly. Ask the question, what am I learning about myself through this? This is a journey. This is a process. So for those of us who are in leadership, I would just give you a leadership insight here. As leaders, we have the opportunity to model healthy rhythms. When you recover well, you become a model of healthy rhythms to your employees and those around you, for your team, your family, and those who are watching you. You show your team that self-care isn't selfish, it's actually sustainable leadership. Let's end with 3 steps that you can take this week. So 3 practical takeaways for a simple recovery plan startup. 1, name where you are. Admit to yourself or someone that you trust that you're struggling with burnout. Healing happens when burnout is acknowledged. 2, rest with intention. Block time away, not just a morning, but maybe an evening, an afternoon, or a full day to fully disconnect and breathe. And then 3, redesign your boundaries. Choose one area, whether it's email, meetings, or family time, and put in a better boundary in place this week to help you move forward easier. You are a capable, committed leader. That's a fact. So that means recovery is possible. If this episode was helpful to you or resonated with you, and you know someone who could use it, please share it and pass it along. If you do need help or support in this, if you need a coach, I'm available. See my link in the show notes. I'm Jonathan Hankin, your change agent coach. Keep questioning, keep growing, and keep leading change. I'll see you next time.